Okay, sorry. I never realized when I actually start to go live. I just put the post on my story, so more people should be funneling in. But for the next few minutes, I'll just ramble on. Got a good week. I'm assuming everyone in the comments here has made the playoffs, so congratulations. Also, if you guys are in the comments, please just put your start sit just once. I will get to it instead of just spamming it back to back to back. Just helps me keep track of kind of where I am in the list. But I was curious, just kind of looking at all the posts. I was wondering if you guys could tell which team I support just because I try and keep it super unbiased, but I was curious if you guys had any inclinations recently. Um, yeah, I think at 12:10 I'll probably start, or maybe a little bit earlier, probably 1 or 2 more minutes. I'll probably start reading the comments. A lot of good games, a lot of high stake playoff games. For all those that got the bye week, feel free to drop that below as well. Obviously, it's great if you got your bye week, you're already done. Got one. I see one already saying I'm a Colts fan. I'm not. I assure you, maybe this Notre Dame logo, but no, I'm not a Colts fan. But good try. Um, keep funneling in all your questions and drop below which team you support. I guess because odds are this week is a pivotal playoff push, not just for fantasy, but also your teams. Let's see. I will give it 1 more minute. Keep funneling in the questions. Week 15, playoffs round one. Also, if you guys are in here early, I would really appreciate if you just hit the subscribe. I know I'm super new on YouTube. The editing's getting a whole lot better, so give me a break. I just got a new mic. I probably should be using it for this, but it's a little bit tricky to set up, according to me. But let's get into some of these questions as we continue to get through. I will shout out the first person here, Tanner. Tanner with the first question. He was in here as the only person for a minute. Really appreciate it. Let's see what he's got. Mariota or Bo Nix. So Marcus Mariota going against the Giants, Bo Nix against the Packers. I would actually go with Mariota in this one. I think the rushing floor is a lot higher for Mariota. I also think this Giants defense is terrible. And essentially, the Giants, if they're smart, are trying to tank a little bit. I expect this game to be sneaky high scoring, obviously, cold weather. However, Mariota's looked good when he's been the starter. And Bo Nix in this game, I'm not super thrilled to start either quarterback. It seems like it's just going to be a defensive juggernaut kind of a game. So the Broncos defense against the Packers defense, I expect Micah to get home a lot. I expect it to be a field goal battle. So I'm not in any rush to be starting Cortland Sutton or Bo Nix in this one. But yeah, so I would go with Mariota, but it is close. So we got James Cook or Woody Marks. This is from Sean. Cook or Marks, and then Trevor Lawrence or Jacoby Brissett. Trevor Lawrence going against the Jets or Jacoby against the Texans. I would go with Jacoby. I think against the Texans, although they're the number one defense, I expect them to get down early. They're going to be trailing, passing from behind. I also like Jacoby just any week just because he's going to get his 250, 300 passing yards. He gives you a safe floor. It doesn't really matter how many times he's going to get sacked. They're throwing the ball on every single play. So give me Jacoby, and then the first part of this is easy. Give me James Cook. I think the Bills will lean on the ground game. Obviously, it's snowing in Foxborough, so I expect both teams to lean on the run. James Cook over Woody Marks, although I really do like Woody Marks in this matchup against Arizona. On to the next one. Got Ted McMillan or Henderson in full PPR. Oh, this is tough. So this is one where I would actually lean towards your matchup. So if you're an underdog, I would definitely go with Tet McMillan. I think he has the higher upside in this matchup. But if you're kind of in your playoffs, it's a neck and neck race. I would go with Travion. He has the safer volume as the running back. I expect them to utilize him in the passing game. A lot of quick, short line of scrimmage targets in this snowing forecast in Foxborough. So give me Travion, assuming that you're not like some massive underdog where you need 8 for 102 from Tet. So give me Henderson. Let's see. From Logan. Oh, yeah. No, I'm not a Colts fan. Don't let the Notre Dame logo fool you. Mitchell Reyes. We got Warren or Gesicki. Rode Warren all year, but feels like Burrow gives the edge. Yeah, I mean, I would still go with Tyler Warren in this one. I know the player prop line for Philip Rivers is just over 150 passing yards. However, I expect them to keep it all in the short or intermediate. Rivers is 44 years old. He's a grandpa. He's not going to be able to throw it deep to like Pittman or Alec Pierce. I expect Warren and Jonathan Taylor to be pretty safe plays as far as receiving totals go and full PPR. So I would still roll with Warren. You got to trust the talent. There's also a good, I mean, it sounds dumb, but also if they get in the one, he is kind of the de facto tush push guy. So you do have that rushing floor. So give me Warren over Gesicki. Let's see. We got start 3, Judkins, Jacobs, Neal, or Harvey. As close as this is, I'm sitting Devin Neal. I like him in this game, but the Panthers are playing for a lot in this game now with Tampa Bay losing. So if they win this game, they could really lock up the division. Their defense has been playing well, so I would definitely be sitting Neal. And the only one I'm between here would be Jacobs, just knowing that he's probably going to be limited. I didn't love him getting a second MRI on his knee to make sure nothing else happened to it. That isn't always the best sign. So give me those three. However, play Jacobs with caution. He's definitely outside my top 12 at this point. But yeah, Judkins, Jacobs, and Harvey for me. From Logan, we got pick 2, Devontae Smith, Christian Watson, or Debo. This one's pretty easy. I'm not playing Debo Samuel, obviously back into the lineup. However, hasn't looked super great with Terry there. Terry's going to command the bulk of the targets. I don't really expect much from Debo, probably playing on limited snaps. Washington doesn't really have much to play for. I don't expect them to be running any Debo-designed handoffs or end-arounds, which are so valuable for fantasy. So give me Devonta and Christian Watson. Keep riding the wave of Christian Watson. He's been a great play and probably one of my favorite rest of season wide receivers down the stretch. Where am I? From Wiki here. Before I get to this one, if you're in the chat, I really appreciate you guys joining. If you could just hit the subscribe, it takes 2 seconds. Not saying you got to watch all the videos, but as we continue to try and grow the YouTube channel, I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, back to the channel. Devin Neal or Breece Hall. This one is Breece Hall for me. I like Breece against the Jaguars just in the fact that I expect them to get down early. I expect a lot of screens, check downs from Brady Cook. I know a lot of comments of you guys saying that like Brady Cook isn't going to give him any value. However, it's not really like Tyrod or Justin Fields did as well. So give me Breece Hall over Devin Neal, although it is very close. From Vital, full PPR this week. Do we trust Adonai Mitchell with Brady Cook or stick with Blake Corum in the flex? I would stick with Blake Corum. You know what you're going to get. I think he has between 10 to 12 touches in each of the 3 past games. They do use him in the goal line as well. I expect this Rams-Lions game to be super high scoring. I think the over-under is set at 54.5, which is just absolutely beautiful for fantasy. So keep riding Blake Corum, and I'm not in any hurry to play AD Mitchell with Brady Cook. So give me Blake Corum. From Sean, my buddy wants to know who's better to start, Neal, Tracy, Henderson, or Swift. This one comes down to Henderson or Swift. I would not be playing Devin Neal or Tracy. The reason that I would consider DeAndre Swift is just because of the weather. Obviously, I think it's negative 22 wind chills. They're going to be leaning on the ground game. However, Cleveland has been very stout against the ground, so I would go with Travion. I expect this Bills-Patriots game to like I said, lean on the ground, both sides of the ball. However, both teams move the ball very good. So give me Travion. I think they'll need him in this game. They need explosive plays. I think he has the highest upside out of all of this bunch. From Terran, we got C-Rod's out, Charbonnet in the flex, or last minute streamer. As far as last minute streamers, you'd have to give me some examples. But if you're trying to say that if JCM was available, yes, I would play him over Charbonnet. But I wouldn't be chasing any other Washington running backs. Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt would be my pick out of them, but other like streaming running backs like Emmanuel Wilson, I'm not playing him over Charbonnet. So I'd probably lean Sharps unless you could get JCM or a running back where you know they're getting at least 10 to 12 touches. See, we got Dart or May. This one's easy. You're going Drake May. The second leading favorite for the MVP at home. I know they're going to lean on the ground game. However, you just can't you can't bench him in your playoffs. Jackson Dart has a good matchup. However, I expect him to be very limited on the ground. I know they made it a clear emphasis to him this week that he has to get down. I don't expect any designed runs. So you're really capping your upside there. Granted, yes, it's a better matchup, but I'm going to take the talent of Drake May over Jackson Dart any day in my playoffs. Also, something I'd rather go out on Drake May's sword, who probably got you there all season long, until we see Jackson Dart as a consistent rusher post fifth concussion. Okay, so Vitel was also saying AD Mitchell, Blake Corum, or Jeremy McNichols. No, I would still go with Blake Corum. No rush to play Jeremy McNichols. We've seen this offense roll past Chris Rodriguez. It's going to be JCM going forward. It's going to probably be like 15 touches to him. McNichols will be kind of like sprayed in there with like 5 to 7 carries. However, really poses no true upside in my opinion. We got Justin, Flex 2, Flowers, Tracy, or Gainwell. Not going to lie, I don't feel good starting Flowers this week. Oh, you should feel very good starting Zay. Against the Bengals, I think this is a great matchup for him. It's a good get-right spot. Last time they played, touchdown goes his way, and maybe they don't call pass interference. It's a whole different way you're viewing Zay this week. So give me Zay Flowers. Mark Andrews missed a few practices with the groin injury. Expect them to get Zay involved early and often. This game should be a shootout, and the Ravens need to pick it up offensively. So give me Zay Flowers. Although I do like Tracy, he would be my second option over Gainwell, but give me Flowers all day. We got Javonte or Michael Wilson, also Lamar or Burrow. So these are great options. This is actually probably my favorite question of the day. I would go with Javonte over Michael Wilson. This is strictly matchup based. I think they're very similar as far as like projections, all of that good stuff. However, Javonte at home in prime time against the Vikings, I really like him in this spot. I think he's a good bet to get in the end zone. And I'm not in too much of a rush to start Michael Wilson against the Texans defense. They have just been shutting down wide receiver ones. So give me Javonte and then Lamar or Burrow. I think you still got to roll with Lamar. I think the deciding factor for me is that T. Higgins is out. That should slow the offense down just a little bit. Although they are at home, I expect Lamar to continue to run more. Last week was a great sign as far as his fantasy output going forward. I think you should be very bullish on him the next few weeks after seeing that rushing floor. Let's see, got Lad or JCM. I would go with JCM. I'm not playing Lad really anywhere anymore. I'm not trusting any of these Chargers wide receivers. It seems as though their offensive line is just crumpling. So Herbert has to get the ball out quick, which you would think is favoring Ladd McConkey and Gadsden. However, it's really round robin, who gets the target. So it's way too condensed. It was good when it was Herbert throwing for 300 or 400 pass yards a game. However, he just hasn't been throwing it as much. They've been leaning on the ground game, especially with Hampton back. So give me JCM over Ladd in this matchup. Before I get to the next one, I know we got a lot of you guys here. If you could just hit the subscribe, that would mean the world. It takes 2 seconds. Not saying you got to watch the videos, but yeah, I would really appreciate it. And I will be getting to all of your questions. Let's see. We got B-Ball Variety Show. Marks or Harvey, Neil or Warren. Oh my gosh, we got 4 questions all in one. Let's take it one by one. Marks or Harvey, I would go with RJ Harvey at home. If it was on the road, I would play Woody Marks. However, I expect RJ Harvey to be involved. He's getting that bell cow usage, which I like. Devin Neal or Jalen Warren. This one is Warren for me. Better matchup at home against the Dolphins. They should lean on the ground game. The Dolphins have been good, but they've struggled against the ground. Next question 3 of 4. We got Tet or Michael Wilson. I would go with Tet in this one. I'm not the biggest fan of Michael Wilson this week. I know you guys are saying he's prime Jerry Rice without Marv, but give me Tet McMillan. I think he's more talented. I also expect the Cardinals defense to take a step back, or Cardinals offense to take a step back against the Texans this week. That's just kind of what all offenses do against the Texans. And last one, Waller or Jawan Johnson. I would go with Jawan. He's the safer play. Waller still limited, coming back from injury. Also, he has the floor of like 1 for 5 yards. Jawan is at least going to give you like 5 for 40. So give me Jawan. We got another one from Wiki here. Start 3, A.J. Brown, Chris Olave, BTJ, Watson, or Michael Wilson. So the first lock is going to be A.J. Brown. And then I think I would go with Chris Olave against the Panthers and Michael Wilson. I know I'm super bullish on Christian Watson going forward. I think the matchups going forward are great, but I don't like him getting the matchup with Surtain in this one. And I'm also in no rush to start BTJ until he proves that he's anything more than a wide receiver 3 at best. I do like him as far as like the Jags going forward. They've used him as like the deep threat that he is. So there's no more like underneath targets. If you've noticed his route tree, he's running all kind of go routes, which is great. We got one from Miguel. JCM without Rodriguez or Singletary. I would go with JCM. I think he's still in the committee here with Singletary and Tracy. Tracy looks to be healthy, which I didn't expect going through the practice reports this week. But give me JCM with no Rodriguez. He should get more touches. I also like Washington to maybe win this game. Mariota's been very good as the starter, so there should be no drop-off with no Jaden. So give me JCM. We got Vital Cowboys D or Seahawks defense. This one is easy. I know the Cowboys are playing 9, who is terrible. However, give me the Seahawks defense. They are absolutely violent, especially at home against Phil Rivers, who just hasn't thrown a football in half a decade. So I expect them to get after him early. I expect a lot of blitzes down in Seattle. So I think the floor is like 6 or 7 sacks here for Seattle. I actually expect them to get a few takeaways. And Shaheed in the return game has also been very promising for your fantasy special teams lineup as well. So give me the Seahawks defense. We got Crazy Hank here saying Fannin or Ferguson. This one, I'm going with Harold Fannin. Harold Fannin, one of my favorite starts of the week at the tight end position, has looked really good with Shedeur. And if you've been watching the Browns recently, this offense has flipped a switch with Shedeur at the helm. They're throwing it over expectation a whole lot. Shedeur's able to extend plays, which, yes, oftentimes end up in like 20-yard sacks. But Fannin offers like the yards after catch upside that you want in a young tight end. He only needs like 3 or 4 catches to really make a big difference on your team. So give me Harold Fannin. We got pick 2, Judkins, Chase Brown, or Michael Wilson. I would go with Judkins and Chase Brown. I'm always going to pick the volume of the running backs. In this case, Judkins going against the Bears defense, which has struggled against the ground. I really like him in this matchup, as well as Chase Brown against the Ravens. He had over 100 all-purpose yards against them the last time. Expect them to continue with that, as the Ravens defense really hasn't found its full form yet, and sit Michael Wilson in the worst matchup. For all the people who just joined, feel free to just hit the subscribe while you're in here. I will get to all of your questions. I know I'm new to the YouTube game, but I would really appreciate if you hit the subscribe. And on to the next, we got one from Sean. McLaurin, Olave, Zay Flowers, or Christian Watson. This one is rather easy for me. Give me Olave and Zay Flowers. I don't love Terry against the Giants. I don't like Terry or Debo. I think they're both kind of safe floor plays, but I expect this game to be nasty, very low scoring with Washington against the Giants. It's just kind of how these division games go. No matter if they're both out of playoff race, I expect both defenses to show up a little bit more than they have been recently. And then Christian Watson, as I said, I expect a low scoring game. Also against Sertan, you got to know when to pull the plug. He's been carrying your fantasy team for 2 to 3 weeks now. However, this is the one to put him on the bench. I'm all for riding the hot hand, but not in a terrible matchup. We got said Big Zeke, full PPR to flex, Henderson, Jalen Warren, or Neal. Pick two flex, Jalen Warren. Okay. Sorry, it took me a while to process that one. I would go with Travion and Jalen Warren. I would sit Devin Neal. I like him as a safe floor play. I think I said it in one of my recent videos that against this Panthers front four, he should have a little bit more struggle. I know that Shuck running the ball really helps him as far as his upside goes. Teams are having to account for the Saints quarterback running the ball. However, inside the red zone, it always comes into the Taysom Hill effect, where you're not really sure if he's going to actually get the ball. So in this sense, I would go with Warren or Henderson, where you know they're getting the ball a certain amount of times and they move the ball better as an offense, leading to more red zone opportunities. We got from Logan, McLaurin, Olave, or Wandale, pick two. This one, give me Olave and Wandale. Wandale, the Giants are clearly testing him out for next year. I expect him to get the ball a lot. Darius Slay in this comeback, however, is really nothing more than a deep threat for this offense. I like I said, I expect Jackson Dart to not run the ball as much, meaning he'll be throwing it to the underneath targets, which is usually where Wandale makes his money. So give me him and Olave, and I would be sitting Terry in this occasion. Got Carlos, Dak, or May. I'm playing Drake May until the wheels fall off. He's been so steady for fantasy going forward. I think he has a safe rushing floor. There's also a chance he could get into the end zone running the ball against the Bills defense, which has really struggled as of late. Joe Burrow just put up like 300 yards against them, 4 touchdowns. So give me Drake May, although I do like Dak in this matchup. However, the Brian Flores kind of defensive front is going to get home to him a lot, which is something the Cowboys struggle with. Anytime there's pressure, you usually see Dak have a bad fantasy game. So wouldn't be surprised if they win ugly and that you're a little bit disappointed if you started Dak. We got start Devin Neal or Breece Hall. I would still play Breece Hall. Handle for Noah. We got Ladd or Fannin at the flex. This one's interesting. I would still go with Fannin. I think he's the better play in this matchup against Chicago. Like I said, wind is going to be a factor. Cold is going to be a factor. A lot of the underneath targets. He's also a guy you don't want to tackle in the cold. I expect him to be elusive, getting out of tackles, a lot of yards after catch. So expect a lot of design targets for Harold Fannin in this one. We got Tommy, start Hampton or Devin Neal. I would go with Neal in this one. I know I've been deferring him and a whole lot of options so far. However, give me Neal over Hampton. Don't like Hampton against this Chiefs front. We just saw Woody Marks get the ball like 28 times and still not eclipse 70 rushing yards. So give me Devin Neal with the recent reports out of Chargers, kind of rumorville that they're still splitting the work with Vidal and Hampton is not what you want to hear. I expect Hampton to be the guy going forward, just not in this matchup. Not until I fully see him get more than like 35% of snaps, which he was last week, especially coming off a short week. We got McBride or Kittle. You're playing Trey McBride. He's tight end 1 going forward every single week. It doesn't really matter who they play. Jacoby Brissett is moving the ball so well that you just have to play him every week. He is going to get a whole lot of downfield targets. Something the Texans have struggled with a little bit is the tight ends over the middle. Obviously not this past week with Kelsey. However, I expect the Cardinals to exploit this. They'll have the ball a whole lot. They're going to be throwing on every down, so give me McBride over Kittle. Let's see. We got Matthew. Choose two: Lad, DK, Devontae, or Michael Wilson. This one I would not be playing Lad. That's for sure. I would play Michael Wilson and Devonta. I would sit DK against the Dolphins. I know he was coming out of like the hospital this past game. He stayed overnight. I'm not sure how fully healthy he is. I know he's expected to suit up. Obviously, he's a tough guy, but don't love him in this game. I expect the Steelers to lean on the ground game. That's kind of what's gotten them leads and led to them winning. So I expect a heavy dose of Warren in this cold weather. So give me those two of Devontae Smith and Michael Wilson. I do expect the Eagles' offense to return a little bit back to its usual form. That's just something the Raiders do as a defense. They'll make you look really good. So I have no problem starting A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith with confidence. I'm less bullish on Jalen Hurts just because I think it'll be a heavy passing game as far as A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Goddard. They obviously have to get them going. So no problem starting all of the Eagles' options despite failing you last week in prime time. Let's see, we got Emilio. Would you start Lad with Quentin out or Michael Wilson? I would play Michael Wilson. This one's pretty easy. I know QJ kind of opens the door to a larger share of the Chargers' passing offense. However, divisional game, Chargers Chiefs. I expect this to be low scoring. Like I said, Gadsden's also going to get his. Keenan's going to get his. It's not like taking QJ out of the equation is really going to make a super difference for Lad. So give me Michael Wilson. We got one for Matt. Breece Hall or Gainwell. Hard to pick here. I also got Brock Bowers or Theo Johnson. No offense, Matt, but these are pretty easy to pick. I would go with Breece Hall and I would go with Brock Bowers. Going out on your sword with the higher talent profile guys. Breece Hall, obviously, against the Jaguars, tough matchup. However, I'm not playing a backup running back in Kenneth Gainwell. And give me Brock Bowers over Theo Johnson. I'm not concerned on the QB switch from Geno. The talent of Bowers is always going to command targets. He's going to get open. And he's not like a downfield wide receiver where you can overthrow him or anything. It's going to be a lot of short targets for Bowers, which he can make his money after the catch. So give me Breece Hall and Bowers. We got Owen, Lamar, or Dart. This one is actually where I would think I would still lean Lamar. However, Dart would be right behind him. I think these guys are back-to-back in my rankings, so I would lean Lamar just because I saw him last game run the ball, have more of an emphasis to get his legs moving, which I really liked for fantasy. Jackson Dart on the other side is probably trending the wrong direction in the sense that coaches are telling him he has to stop running. So I expect a whole lot less design runs for Dart. So give me Lamar Jackson. Let's see. Should I be worried about CMC popping up on the injury report yesterday? Is that more of a precaution? This is from Emilio. I think this is more of a precaution. The fact that you get the instant report that he's expected to play, it's just something that they have to add to the injury report. First it was illness, then back. Those kind of go together if you make sense of it. Feeling under the weather, I wouldn't be surprised if his back is probably at like 90%, but it has to be added at some point onto the injury report. Does this mean he is sitting in your lineups? No. However, I would expect a little bit more of Brian Robinson, which you might kind of dislike for your fantasy playoffs. However, I mean, it's just unsustainable to give him 25 or 30 touches a game, especially while he's laboring with illness or a back injury. So just temper your expectations, but no, nothing really serious to worry about like we've seen in the past for CMC. We got Josh Jacobs or Javonte Williams. This one, give me Javonte. I think he's the better play. Worst defense, also at home against the Vikings. I expect the Cowboys to try and establish the run. They don't want to get in these clear passing situations against the Flores defense. Don't love Jacobs against the Broncos, obviously missing practice against the Broncos is just going to be a recipe for a disaster. Expect a two-headed committee with him and Wilson way more involved this week. So give me Javonte. Let's see. We got another one from John. We got Diggs or Waddle. This one is Waddle for me. I know he's going to go up against Ramsey. However, he's struggled recently because the Dolphins have just been controlling the pace. They've been winning football games. However, against the Steelers, they're underdogs. I expect them to get down. They're going to have to throw the ball, and they really have no other weapons outside of Waddle and Waller. So I expect Waddle to be heavily utilized in this game. I think he's a top 12 wide receiver for me. So give me Waddle over Diggs. For those of you in the chat, I would love it if you guys just hit the subscribe while I wait to answer your questions. I will get to all of them, but really appreciate it. Let's see. We got Christopher Likely or Andrews. I would go with Isaiah Likely. If you asked me earlier in the week, I would have picked Mark Andrews, but missing practice during the week is never a good sign. However, the great sign is that the Bengals are dead last against fantasy tight ends. They pretty much just run the same play every time, and it's wide open. And they can't seem to guard it. Tight ends over the middle. So give me Isaiah Likely, just due to the fact that Andrews has been limited with the glute. I'm not sure how many snaps he'll play. So give me Likely, who's been very utilized in recent weeks. So yeah, give me Isaiah Likely. From John, we got T-Law or Caleb. This one I would go with Caleb Williams, strictly due to the fact I think the Jags will kind of stomp the Jets, get up a whole lot early in this game. I expect a heavy dose of ETN and Tootin. I think you could be disappointed if the Jags move the ball super well in the first quarter. And he finished the game with like 250 yards and 1 touchdown, just because you get unlucky in the red zone and then they just don't throw a single pass in the second half. I think both of those things are in the range of outcome. So give me Caleb in a game that I expect them to control, however, have to throw the ball. Also think that Rome being back into the wide receiver room will help Caleb. Not saying to play Rome at all. However, Caleb getting his main go-to guy is definitely of help as far as the other wide receiver twos getting less coverage. So give me Caleb. We got Breece Hall or Gainwell. I would go with Breece Hall and then Rico and Chuba or just Rico. I would just start Rico. Wouldn't be in any rush to start Chuba. The confirmation from Canales recently over the past few days that Rico is still the main horse in this kind of dynamic 1-2 punch. I really like Rico in this week. I don't expect Chuba to get too involved. It's probably going to be like 70-30 if I had to guess. I think they like Chuba in the pass game. So give me Rico over Chuba. For all you guys that just joined, feel free to hit the subscribe. I will get to your questions. I know I'm new to YouTube, but really appreciate it. Got let's see. We got Michael, start one flex, Rico or Woody, start Theo or Schultz. This one's rather easy for me. I know I just spoke to you about how I like Rico in this game. However, I do like Woody a lot more against the Cardinals defense, which is slowly quitting. I expect the Texans to get up early on them. Woody Marks with Chubb, still banged up. I really like him in this game. 26 carries last week. It's an emphasis for D'Amico Ryans and this offense. They need to establish the run. I think he's great pick for fantasy to be like a top 12 running back. Also saw on the lines, I think he's like minus 130 to score. Vegas expect him to score. I also expect him to score in this game. So give me him over Rico Dowdle. Although I like both players, I'm just going to take the one with more volume and in a better matchup. And then your tight end question, Theo Johnson or Schultz. I would go with Theo Johnson. He's clearly been the favorite of Jackson Dart. A few plays away on Monday Night Football from being a very, very high finished tight end. I expect them to get right and him to kind of be second in the team in targets, just behind Wandale. So I like him in this game, which should be fun with the Giants and Commanders playing with nothing to lose. Let's see. Strange or Goddard, Neal or Warren, and Tet Olave or Justin Jefferson. Pick 2. All right. So 3-part question here. We got Strange or Goddard. I would go with Brenton Strange. Clearly has a connection with Trevor Lawrence. I expect them to put up a whole lot of points. The Jags need to win this game. The Jets are terrible, especially against tight ends. So give me Brenton Strange until I know the Eagles' deep offense is fixed. On to the next one. We got Devin Neal or Warren. Give me Warren. I think I had this one earlier. just a better matchup. Also at home, I expect them to lean on Warren and the run game in this one. So give me Jalen Warren, and then the last part, Tet, Olave, or Justin Jefferson, pick two. In this one, give me Jefferson and Tet McMillan. Not That's not to say that Chris Olave isn't a good play. However, he's going to get a bad matchup as far as the corner on Carolina. I really like Jefferson in prime time. I expect the Vikings and actually 9 to put up a whole lot of passing yards. That's just kind of what the Cowboys defense gives you. So I like Jefferson and Addison in this matchup if you need to play them. But yes, give me Tet and Jefferson. We got Tommy, Kelsey, or Kincaid. I would play Kelsey. He's just over Kincaid for me, just due to the fact that Kelsey, obviously, 2 brutal drops on Sunday Night Football. Expect them to get right against the Chargers, who have been bad. Specifically against tight ends, they've been really good against wide receivers. So I expect Mahomes and the Chiefs to exploit that over the middle. See, we got Ellen, or no, Lion, sorry. I don't know whether to start Kyron or Dowdle as my RB2. Also, Mahomes or Dart. Appreciate all your insight this year. Yes, happy to give all the insight. I know I've been trying to stay consistent with the posting, different little outlets, YouTube, also some reels coming up, maybe some reels in the future. But I would go with Kyron over Dowdle. I'm not going to make too much of Blake Corum. A lot of his yards came off that one kind of breakaway score when they were already up a lot. Kyron is still the lead back. They paid him to be the lead back. It would be different if they didn't tie all that money to him. They're going to give him the ball. They need him in this game too. I know that they said that they're saving him for the playoffs, but this is a playoff type game against the Lions. So I expect a heavy dose of Kyron in this game. And then Mahomes or Dart, I would go with Mahomes. He's proven to be more consistent. I also think he has a higher rushing floor. That's due to the fact that Dart, I don't expect him to run the ball at all, really, in this game. He has to be safe with his body. They're playing with nothing to gain in this kind of meaningless football game against the Commanders. So give me Mahomes. Mahomes and Kyron in that one. Got Melissa here. Pick 2 wide receivers in a flex out of Debo, Metcalf, Flowers, and Ramondre. So I would be sitting Ramondre. So I'd be playing Zay Flowers would be my auto play. I think he's the best out of these 4-pack kind of bunch, just due to the matchup and overall volume. And then DK, I would definitely play over Debo and Ramondre. And then I would play Debo over Ramondre, despite it being close. I think the only way you're kind of disappointed is if Ramondre gets like a 2 or 3 yard touchdown, which is very much in the realm of possibilities. But I'm going to take the safe volume of Debo over that. I expect a heavy dose of Travion and Ramondre still coming back from the toe injury. So give me the first 3 all wide receivers in this one. We are 18 minutes from game day. A lot of playoff matchups. I'm hoping you guys can all pull through to championship or semifinal week. If you have time while you're in the chat, I'll get to all your questions. If you could hit the subscribe, takes 2 seconds, but means a whole lot. I would really appreciate it. And let's get back to the questions. We got Bo Nix or Caleb Williams. I would go with Caleb. I'm not comfortable starting Bo Nix really over anyone. I think I would even play Shador over Bo Nix. Don't really like him against the Packers defense, which has been stout. It's also just kind of the fact that their defense is also good. Expect a low scoring field goal fest. Yards are going to be at a premium in this game. So give me Caleb. We got Olave or Wilson. Think the snow and 15-mile-an-hour winds hurts A.J. Brown and Bowers' production. What I'm seeing, I don't expect the weather in Philly to be that much of an issue. So especially for A.J. Brown or Brock Bowers, guys where you can get designed like quick slants, I wouldn't make too much of. If it is like super bad conditions in the second half, which I don't expect it to be, it would really hurt like Devontae or your downfield threats. So no concern for A.J. Brown or Bowers. So the first part of your question, Olave or Michael Wilson. I think you got to ride Michael Wilson in this one. Unfortunately, I'm not like the biggest fan of him this week, despite Marv being out and him being amazing every week. Getting the drawing of Stingley is not what you want. I think Wilson's talented, but I also think he's just getting hyper targeted by Brissett. It's similar to like the Jameis treatment where you're not really sure how good the wide receiver is. He's just getting peppered with targets. But I'm going to continue to ride that wave with Wilson. Do I think they're going to win this game? No, but Brissett will get his yards. We got Kyle or Aaron Jones. I'm just going to assume this is from Brooke. I'm going to assume this is Kyle Monangai. In that sense, I would play Aaron Jones against the Cowboys. I think this Vikings offense is going to look like night and day. Much more productive. That's what the Cowboys defense will make you look like. So I expect them to get the ground game going, get Jefferson going. I expect it all to be clicking in this matchup. Should be a very fun, high-scoring game. So give me Aaron Jones. Monangai is still a good play, but not against this Browns defense. They're both probably going to get at least 10 touches, being like Monangai and DeAndre Swift. However, the Browns have been very good against the ground, and them letting up a whole lot of breakaway carries to Tony Pollard, I don't think is indicative of how good they are up front. So I'd expect them to fix that and really make a statement here against the Bears, shut down the run, and maybe stay in this game, maybe win it. We got Herbert or Young. Man, I think I would go with Bryce Young in this one. I don't like Herbert in this matchup against the Chiefs. I know in week 1 he was the hero against Kansas City, but the rushing floor is a little bit lower with the hand injury. I know he needed to run last game. However, what I did see is that the Eagles' front four got home a whole lot. I think Chris Jones and the Chiefs' defense will do just the same. However, the Chiefs' offense will be able to take more time of possession. I expect the game to be way low scoring, and I think Bryce Young gives you a safer floor. Also kind of higher upside if the Panthers in this must-win spot for them can really get the offense humming. I think I would go with Bryce. We got Purdy or Hurts. I would go with Jalen Hurts, although Brock Purdy is one of my favorite plays this week. Going up against Tennessee with CMC a little bit limited, I expect them to lean on the air a whole lot more than they have recently. I expect Purdy to be in the top 10 finishers, but give me Jalen Hurts. We got Burden, Reed, or Pearsall. This one's tough. I think I would go Jaden Reed. He's just going to get more design touches, more end arounds. He looked healthy in this past week, so I have no problem starting him. However, both other guys, Pearsall has been uninvolved. Really disappointing over the past 4 or 5 weeks, as well as Luther Burden with Rome coming back into the fold. I don't expect really much of any production for him or DJ Moore in this cold, snowy game. So I would go with Jaden Reed. Let's see, should I drop Quentin Johnston for either Vele or Shaheed and potentially start them over Reed at wide receiver 3 in a PPR league? No, I wouldn't start either of those guys over Reed. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Jaden Reed this week, but I do think he gives you the highest floor. As far as dropping QJ, I think I would keep him over those 2 other options. You're probably not going to need to play him or those other options over Jaden Reed going forward. So I would stick with Reed. For all you guys that just joined, I know we're 12 minutes from game time, but would love it if you just hit the subscribe. While I wait to get to your questions, I certainly will get to all of them, I promise. It takes 2 seconds, and I would really appreciate it. I know I just started this, so any support is welcomed and really appreciate it. Let's see, we got hey, what's up with Josh Jacobs? I need 2 from Jacobs, Rico, Hall, or JCM. Usually I would be benching Josh Jacobs just in the sense bad matchup, also laboring from the injury. However, I would still play him over the likes of Breece Hall or JCM. So give me Jacobs and Rico. I think you got to ride the talent in this one. Both teams are favored to win their matchup. I think Jacobs could save you with a touchdown or 2. That's not to say that I think he's going to get a whole lot of volume. I expect him to be under 15 carries in this game. However, with the talent and kind of productivity of this Packers offense, if you're giving me 15 carries, I'll take it. And Rico, same thought. I don't like him that much, but over Breece Hall against a very good Jags defense and JCM, who we've seen be very volatile. Give me Jacobs and Rico. Dowdle or Hampton. Also appreciate the Instagram content. Yes, I appreciate all your guys' support throughout the season. I hope I've been helping you win some weeks. I hope all of you guys in your comments right here are in the playoffs. Obviously, I've had fun doing it, so gonna continue giving you guys advice. Hopefully, bring home some hardware for you guys. But yeah, I really appreciate it. Anyway, back to the question: Dowdle or Hampton? I would go with Dowdle in this one. I'm not the biggest fan of Hampton until we see him get at least half of the snaps. Obviously, last week was like the perfect recipe in the sense that Jalen Hurts turned the ball over 18 times. So they always had the ball. They were always able to give him quick carries. However, I don't think that's indicative to how healthy he is. So give me Rico in this matchup against the Saints defense, which has been playing better. But the Panthers know they need to win this game, and they're going to roll with what was working for them, which is a heavy dose of Rico Dowdle. In a game, they should control the pace. So give me Rico. I will get to everyone's question. Don't worry. Purdy or Dart. This one I'd go with Jackson Dart. Let's see. Should I pick up Neal because of Jacobs? Not. I wouldn't start Devin Neal over Jacobs, but if you could pick him up for your bench, I would certainly do so. Next 2 weeks are great matchups. I think they have the Jets next week, if I'm not mistaken. So Devin Neal would be in my top 15 for sure. Caleb or Shuck? Give me Caleb. Let's see. We got Wandale, Waddle, or Wilson, full PPR. I would go with Waddle in this one. Really like Jalen Waddle this week, despite the Ramsey matchup. I expect them to get down in this game, have to throw the ball. We got Hunter, pick 2, Juwan Jennings, Tet McMillan, A.D. Mitchell, Worthy, or Jaden Reed. Woof. All right. Tet is an auto out of all of these. And then I would go with Tet and Jennings, just slightly over Xavier Worthy, who would be next in line. However, I'm not too bullish on A.D. Mitchell or Jaden Reed. I think Jennings and Tet McMillan give you the highest floor. Also, two offenses that should be able to move the ball in Week 15. So give me those two. We got Nate, Michael Wilson, Nico Collins, and CD. Choose two. This one's easy. Give me CD and Nico Collins. I'm going to trust the talent, both in better matchups than Michael Wilson as well. So give me those two. Got another one from Hunter. Pick one for flex if Juwan and Tet are selected from prior. What is going on right now? If Juwan and Tet are selected from prior one. Okay, so we're just picking one from Neal, A.D. Mitchell, Worthy, Reed, Monangai, Charbonnet. Like I said earlier, I would go Xavier Worthy over these other options. Monangai or Charbonnet doesn't really move me much. So I'd go with Worthy over those other options. One more here from Melissa. I got Rice and Flowers at my wide receiver flex. Should I do Metcalf or Debo? I would go with Metcalf over Debo. Higher likelihood for a touchdown. Also expect the Steelers to move the ball quite easily against this Dolphins defense. So give me DK. Let's see. We got Gabe here at the bottom. We got 8 more minutes. If you could hit the subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. 2 last questions here, and then I'll probably shut it down. Breece, Rome, also have Luther. I would go with Breece Hall. Always going to favor the running back over of those other options. I really like Breece over Rome, just Rome coming back from the injury. Also not too bullish on Luther Burden. Not too bullish on the Bears' offensive options as well. Let's see. JCM, Rome, or Goddard at the flex. This one's JCM. It's pretty easy. I would definitely go with the volume of starting running back for Washington against a bad Giants defense. No rush to start Rome or Goddard. We got a few last minute questions in. If you're dropping a last minute question, hit the subscribe. I'll get to it. Don't worry, Kevin. We got Zay or Aaron Jones. This is Zay Flowers for me. It's pretty easy. Going up against the Bengals, I think he's a great play. The Ravens offense has seemingly turned a little bit of a corner. I expect them to get right against the Bengals. I really like Zay in this matchup. That's not to say Aaron Jones isn't a good play against the Cowboys. However, I think Zay has higher upside. I would definitely roll with Zay in this one. And our last one here from Sway, we got May or Dart. Give me Drake May. This one's pretty easy. He's been getting you there all season long. I would trust the production of Drake May over Jackson Dart in this pivotal playoff matchup, where I don't expect Jackson Dart to be of any rushing floor after his recent concussions and coaches' reports. So we did it. We made it to the bottom. I told you guys. I will stay live probably for another minute or two if any other questions pull through. But if you're still here, hit the subscribe. If you're listening in the background, I appreciate you tuning in. I really enjoy doing these, so I really appreciate it. Let's see, 12:56. That'll be the minute marker. Got 30 or 40 seconds left here with me. If any stragglers coming in with any questions for the playoff matchup, you probably got it all locked up at this point. But if you don't, I'll give you 20 more seconds to join and drop a question. For now, I think that is going to be it. Let's see what the actual time is. Give it the 10-second mark here. 12:55 for now. I think that'll do it. Wishing you guys best of luck. Feel free to DM me your playoff matchups. I love seeing you guys make it to your championships. So please let me know how you're doing. If there's no more questions, that is all. Thank you and best of luck.